As far as injuries are concerned, guys that will be listed as limited: Rob Havenstein, Puka Nacua, Cam Kitchens, and Darius Williams. Rob and Puka are making great progress. Expect them, unless they have setbacks, it's really more limited. But they'll just take, limited reps to what they're accustomed to, but trending in the right direction. Same thing with Cam. We'll have him go through individual with his shoulder. We'll see how his status looks as the week progresses.
So there's the potential that it could just be before the
That's what I think it'll be. Because we really talked about it, Adam. It was like, whatever that fourth game would be, Reggie's like, maybe you get back for that, but this also just provides some clarity, and especially just, it's one of the first times that he's ever dealt with kind of a soft tissue of this magnitude, and so our expectation is after the 4 games, he'll end up being back.
Jordan Whittington steps into that role, or how do you see?
It's a combination. I feel really good. It's nice. You get Puka back. And then, I think really what you've looked at is Jordan Whittington's done an excellent job. Xavier Smith, all he does is just do an excellent job with the opportunities that he's granted, whether that's on special teams or on offense. It was really cool to be able to get Mumpfield going a little bit. He's a guy that can play, different locations and spots. And then obviously you've got Davante. So, with those 5 receivers, you feel like, you got a really good group that I think they complement each other, really well. And we'll miss Tutu. It's a bummer, but you do feel confident in the guys that will be asked to step up.
What do you like about the way Mumpfield's developed so far this year?
Nate, I think he's just so conscientious. He's I think one of the things that I've seen really with the last 2 draft classes, we got a lot of mature rookies. They're grown men even though they're young guys, and they have a professional approach. There's a rhythm, there's a routine, there's a willingness to ask a lot of questions, but also have the awareness of knowing how to do it the right way. And you can see he's always in, Davante's back pocket. Think that, there's a lot of, respect he has really for our group as a whole, but mature. He's obviously really talented too. He can work edges and separate. He'll compete without the ball. I'm really excited about what he's going to continue to do. He's going to be a big factor for us, for years to come. Really, I think more than anything, Adam, it was just saying, hey, respected your game from afar. It's cool. Aubrey has some experience with him coaching him when he was coaching the Senior Bowl, and Roger was coming out of Auburn. And really just excited to get him comfortable with his teammates. Where to go is just talking to him a little bit, before the special teams walk through. And so we're excited to be able to have him and to continue to get to know him. But I think more than anything, put our arm around him, try to be able to get him up to speed as quickly as possible with the expectation that he'll help in some form or fashion this week.
Do you expect to make any other moves before the deadline?
I wouldn't say no. It's not something that we've really talked about. I think, if certain opportunities arise that you feel like it gives you a chance to be able to significantly upgrade your football team, but I feel really good about our group and, the growth that I still think can be had from us in spite of, doing some good things, and that's really in all 3 phases. So hasn't been something that we've really talked about, but I certainly would never rule that out.
You guys have had a lot of success getting to the quarterback the last 2 games. What stood out to you about that pass rush?
I think they're rushing as one. I think they understand the intent of what we're trying to get done, Sarah. And I think the best part about it is they're earning the right to get into those spots. You have to be efficient on early downs to be able to present some of the different things that Chris, our coaching staff, and then ultimately our guys are being able to bring to life. But I just think there's great collaboration. I think there's great, strain through the echo of the whistle. A couple of the sacks that we had, in London, which seems like it was 3 years ago, a lot of that is rush and coverage working as one. And only on one of those 7 sacks that we had were we bringing 5 rushers. We had one of them that Quentin Lake had that was, it's still a 4-man rush where you're playing loaded zone behind it, but you're bringing a DB. And the other ones were just great effort, great guys playing 11 as one. And, there's a couple where it's just, great understanding of how to be able to rush and rush off of one another. You look at Josiah Stewart's sack that he had, it's great effort by him, but it's also an amazing job by Poona Ford to be able to understand the rush lane integrity, to be able to cover him, and then that prevents Lawrence from being able to escape contain, and now he's got to stay in the pocket, and there you go for a sack. So, I think Gift Smith does such a great job. He and Joe Caniglio and Drew Wilkins, their collaboration, their understanding, and we're rushing well as a unit, and that's the best defenses that I've ever been around or gone against, and I'm excited about where we can continue to go.
After the Jaguars game, you mentioned how it was a reminder of how many playmakers you have on your team.
Yeah.
When you get Puka back, what's, I guess, the challenge or opportunity of kind of blending that all together, knowing there's also just one ball?
I think you just said it. I think it's really making sure that you still capitalize on Puka and what he can do, but also making sure that you take advantage of the skill sets of the total group. And that can be reflected in a lot of different ways. But having different guys as some of the primaries and being able to, I think it's more difficult to defend. You certainly don't want to not take advantage of getting the ball to some of the guys where, we've talked a lot about Puka and Davante getting rightfully so a lot of targets, but there's also places and opportunities for some of those guys that I was answering with Gary's question earlier that can make plays. Our tight ends, it was great to get them involved. And so these are positive or champagne problems for us as coaches. But I think, being able to make sure that you're creating value and giving opportunities for everybody to feel like, they can make it more difficult for you to be defended.
Traveling quite a bit in the first part of your schedule.
We didn't travel.
The second part, you go to Carolina and Atlanta, but otherwise stay on the West Coast. What, if any, advantage do you think that might give you guys going?
You know what? I think it's good. What I do know is that we're at home a little bit more over the next month, and I think this by now too. I think it's good, for some of the reasons. I don't really try to make too much of it because whatever the schedule is, I don't have control over. Are we away? Are we home? What time are we playing at? So we maximize the opportunities that we have and try to do the best job of controlling the controllables. So if you said, do the players probably appreciate that, being able to be in a little bit more normalized rhythm and routine? Of course, that's the most important thing to me is how do we put these guys in successful situations and have an atmosphere and environment that really continuously cultivates that. As far as the travel, I don't love jumping on a plane for 6 hours, but shoot, I don't have that choice. So I think our guys have handled that part of it really well, and I think it'll be nice to be at home a little bit more, and we're excited to play in front of our home crowd this Sunday. Okay? Thanks, guys.
London trip, kind of getting by.
It was good. It was good. Got to take a little time off, let the body rest a little bit, and feel like a lot of us came back a lot better.
How did you spend your bye week, and how has your approach to that kind of evolved during your career?
Well, I was extremely relaxed. Extremely relaxed. I was in Cabo out there, spending some time with the family, and just kind of just taking a load off and detaching from football a little bit. And it was real low key. Played a little golf, and that's pretty much it.
The longer you play, does it make you kind of appreciate that week more?
Say that one more time.
The longer you play, does it make you kind of appreciate that week more?
Yeah, especially the last few years, I've been less fortunate with the timing of the bye. So I think kind of having it mid-season the way that it was it timed up good with obviously splitting up the season pretty good. I think I had one a couple years ago really early, and then last year I think we had it like week 13 or something like that. So it's letting a lot more things accumulate on the body before you get a little bit of break to kind of separate the two. So definitely as you go longer, especially if you've had some unfortunate bye weeks in the past, I think times like this you appreciate it for sure.
Tutu brings such a unique element to the receiving corner that is able to pass stretch the field with speed. With him now, is there any adjustment that's needed to figure out the spacing from the offense?
Not necessarily, man. I mean, we got such a versatile group where anybody can step in there and do anything. So obviously, it's a hit to us because he's we know what he brings, and he's such a threat downfield. Being able to mix in some of the downfield stuff with some deeper routes because they got such a respect for his speed. So it's obviously something we got to adjust to. But we got depth in that room and a lot of guys that are ready. And good thing is we don't really have anybody that just sits on the bench that plays receiver. We get a lot of guys that get meaningful snaps and go in there playing 13 personnel. The last game, X getting in there making some plays. So really anybody you can just kind of pick who you want and they can go in there and pick up the slack.
As much as you enjoyed the bye week, is there any part of you when you come off a game as productive as that one was for you, touchdown wise, that you don't want that break, you just want to get?
Oh hell yeah! I told Sean that. I was like, I wish we could keep rolling at this point. And then the other part is seeing the people keep playing, and then they keep doing this, and you're like, damn, I just had to sit around for a week. So, but yeah, I mean, it's the mature thing to think is that we would appreciate it regardless, but the competitor in me definitely wants to keep going sometimes, especially when the body feels good.
Speaking to the competitor in you, I'm wondering how you evaluate your performance and your experience being a Ram about halfway through the season so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of positives for sure. I think that we haven't been able to truly maximize it just because, missing time with Matthew in camp and still trying to get on the page throughout the season, and me dealing with the hamstring. I wasn't necessarily practicing every day before, and so right now trying to make sure, the better we feel being available out there on the field so we can continue to work on that. But yeah, overall, I don't think anybody's disappointed, but it's, me being who I am and Matthew being who he is and just having the team that we do, my expectations are really high and standards are really high for what, I should bring and what this team should be able to do. So definitely not satisfied with what we've done, but happy with where we are.
I'm wondering,
No, go ahead, you go.
so you said, you wish, after you had such a good game, you could just keep it going.
Yeah.
And you spoke after the game to how Mumpfield had such a good game and you see yourself in him for younger you.
Yeah.
Do you ever, give advice or say any kind of thoughts to a younger player like that after you have such a good game, but then a break, and then how do they stay hot? Is there any advice you give?
Well, typically I think with a normal young group, you'd have a lot to say, come in and, you might have some things you hit them with, but with this room, they've taught me some stuff. I even made mention, I don't know if I told you guys, but I went in and had a conversation or not had a conversation, but I kind of broke up the meeting for a minute just because we were looking at the tape. I forgot what game it was, but these dudes were flying around, making blocks on the backside, doing a lot of stuff, and it made me kind of evaluate, my performance as far as how much I'm able to give and the things that I could be pressing on and, straining a little bit more in the run game and things like that. And I let them know. I said, look, y'all motivate me, man. They laughed thinking that I was joking, but I let the jokes calm down for a minute just to let them know, I'm dead serious. Seeing the way you guys as young people, we obviously got great coaches in here, but they're not in here, on our butt to the nth degree trying to make sure that, you got strain on the backside and all this. It's just really just, what's in them. And you can see it in the way that they go about it. And, the outlier is the person that's not going to be, flying around. So, it's not really much you got to say to a lot of these guys out here. You just got to, as things come up, you can, mention whatever. But day to day, they're pros and they understand how it goes and they continue going.
Puka's in the hands of the training staff and whatnot, but as a veteran who's played through all kinds of things, I'm guessing, is there anything that you pass on to him as he's kind of navigating this in terms of advice or anything regarding how you navigate through that?
Not so much, really. These dudes know their bodies. I think when it comes to certain injuries, a lot of these guys will come to me and ask, too, if they do have something, so I don't just walk around, just throwing out unsolicited advice. But, as it pertains to an ankle, I think something like that is a little easier to work through because, it's not like a hamstring where it'll, you mess up, you break a bone in your wrist or something. Those things can be detrimental to your health overall and later in life. But with an ankle, that's kind of something that you can gauge and feel based off your comfort. And it's not really something that somebody in the training room can tell you, you can't go today. But a knee or something like that, they can tell you, look, your knee is not healthy enough to go out there and run and play football. But I just basically just kind of ask him where he's at, basically, and try to comfort him however I can. But, not too much just unsolicited. I just kind of take it as it comes.
You talked after the last game about how you wish you could go out and score 3 touchdowns every game, but it obviously doesn't always go that way. But looking back, do you feel like did you find something? Did you guys as an offense find something that you can kind of build on, just looking back at that 3 touchdown game that maybe wasn't there before that game?
Yeah, we'll see what the red zone targets look like this week, and then we'll be able to fully tell you on that. But definitely it's not a secret that I've been able to make plays in the red zone. So I think a lot of it was just getting on the same page, us filling each other out, coming up with a good plan, and the coaches did that, and we were able to connect. And I think the more you make plays, the more you build that confidence, and then you stop straining and pressing to make plays, and you just be yourself and go out there and be natural.
Is the way that this coaching staff emphasizes the run game aspect of being a receiver different than other stops you've played?
I would say yes and no. It's been a pretty big emphasis. I just think here it's a little bit more seamless, and honestly, I've been places where they talk about the way we're going to do the run game even more than what we do here. But I think we just kind of less talk and just more being about it here, and there's something to that as well.
Thank you.
Did you stay for the full 18 innings the other night?
I did not. I gave it my best effort, but I knew I was going to have to get up and get some kids ready for school the next day. So I left after 10, I think. went, had dinner, drove all the way home, got ready for bed, got in my bed, and the game was still on. So I did watch the entire thing. I was glued to a phone or a TV. So good dub. That was wild. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I feel pretty good. Obviously, I do a lot to try and make sure I stay feeling as good as I possibly can. So just daily maintenance and just trying to do everything I can to make sure that I'm feeling as good as I possibly can. But coming off the bye, I feel pretty solid.
How was that plane ride home? With a back issue,
Yeah.
or just generally speaking, do you get up and walk around and keep moving, or just?
The plane ride home, I was out because we had, interesting Friday to Saturday there where it wasn't a whole lot of sleep. And then my Saturday sleep was all messed up or Saturday night. And then so after the game, I was pretty tired. I think that flight was like 10 and a half, 11 hours. And I think I slept for probably the first six and a half of it. Slept pretty good. Got here, got to my house at 2 a.m., went back to sleep until like 5 a.m., got up at 5, and then I've been feeling pretty good ever since. So it was not too bad. But yeah, it felt fine after that trip.
How do you go about handling the bye week just at this point in your career? How much, like, what kind of things do you do to reset or step away or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, obviously try to stay, feeling good physically, move around. I don't want to just sit on the couch. So do as much as I can to make sure that when I come back here on Monday that I'm feeling as good as I can. And then, I'm spending as much time as I can with my family, taking my kids to school, picking them up, going to soccer games. Got to see a couple soccer games this past weekend and spending time with them. Kelly and I got away for a little bit for like 24 hours and came back at it. So it's great. It's good to be home and be dad for a little bit.
Much better do you feel, today after the bye week compared to, like a Monday where you would be coming in after a game?
Yeah, better. Obviously, I didn't take any hits last week, so that definitely feels better. But to be honest with you, our guys have been doing such a great job of keeping me clean. I felt pretty good, knock on wood, most weeks coming into the week.
Playing? Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, Sarah reminded me, last year you had a streak, the longest of your career of 5 games without an interception. You're playing efficiently again this season.
What are you doing, man?
I just wanted
You want to talk about somebody's no-hitter?
No, but the efficiency that you have played with over the last 4 games, are you in a groove? Is that just a luck?
No, I hope it's not luck. But, no, I think you got to go out and prove yourself every single week. And, certain games shake out certain ways, and sometimes the ball bounces your way and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm just trying to go out there and make as many good decisions in a row as I possibly can. That's both with where the football's going, how I'm throwing it, all those kind of things. Those are all decisions you have to make in a certain play. So just try to make those decisions, go out there, trust myself, I trust my teammates, and go let it hang out. And if there's a turnover here or there or a bad play here or there, move on, find a way to impact the game in a positive way sooner rather than later.
What excites you the most about just the possibilities with this offense the rest of the season, especially with what came out of the last game with tight ends and progressing with the connection with Davante as Puka is now expected to come back?
Yeah, I think the more people we can get involved in the game, the better we are. Obviously, we have a couple extremely talented players, of quite a few, that are difference makers in this league. But when we can spread the ball around and make everybody defend, all the guys, all the eligibles, every blade of grass, that's when we're at our best. So continue to try and do that and let the big games for certain guys just happen. And frankly, I try to play that way all the time. Sometimes it shakes out a little bit different, but I'm doing everything I can to throw the ball where the coverage tells me to throw the ball, and give our guys opportunities to go do what they do best.
Such a specific skill set to this offense with this speed. Is there a process of reconfiguring some of the spacing without the speed?
I don't think so. I think we have guys that can do it all, and Tutu's one of those guys. Yes, he runs, faster than I do, but he's got a whole lot of other skills too that are valuable to our team. So he's like everybody else. We find ways to put him in the best position to help them succeed and let them go out there and use their talents. So, obviously you miss a guy like him with his ability to do some of the things that he's able to do, but find ways to be effective and explosive in other ways.
You mentioned, you watched the end of the Dodger game the other night, and Freddie Freeman, who has done that before, obviously. What is it about guys like him, guys like you, in those moments are able to, what sets you guys apart from the average player?
I don't know. I think I don't know Freddie all that well. I know him decent, but I feel like he's a kind of guy that embraces those moments, wants that moment. Surely doesn't want to be sitting in the on-deck circle and hoping the guy in front of him or behind him does it. So he seems to have that attitude, seems to have had that attitude his whole career. He's been fun to watch, man. It was awesome being there. And, I mean, the first time he stepped up to home plate, everybody in the stadium's chanting his name. I mean, it's awesome what he's been able to do for this city and for that team. So obviously I'm a big fan. But, I think just wanting and embracing that moment, right? Not shying away from it and not shying away from the fact that failure is an option too. You got to go out there and shoot your shot, and I'm sure I think he had chances earlier in the game probably to get a base hit and end it with guys in scoring position. Didn't happen. Okay, well, gotta trust myself the next time I go up there, and he did a hell of a job. So it was fun to watch. I think that's the biggest thing. Can't be afraid to go out there and fail, and just trust yourself.
Matthew, you're one of the longest tenured guys in the sport. Your career's kind of paralleled as we've seen changes to the rules regarding gambling, and it's become more widespread, obviously. Have you noticed change in what you hear from fans or your relationship as gambling's become more prevalent nationally?
Not me personally. I haven't had too many interactions where I've thought anything about it. I don't really talk to people about that or anyone in my circle that is interested in that, to be honest with you. I think probably fantasy football is the thing I get asked about the most, and whether or not I'm doing enough for their team. But other than that, no, I don't. I don't field any questions like that. Luckily, I can imagine that certain guys get involved with that or have that, brought to them, and you got to find ways to make sure that you're doing everything you can to stay out of that.